3. Ladies and gentlemen, programmers from all over the world, welcome to episode 9 of the Daily Code. I'm assertchris, or Chris if you like, and we're looking at Icicle again tonight. We've been doing quite a few days of looking at Icicle code, and I'm quite enjoying it. I think it's a cool library. And where we got to yesterday was that we did some quality of life improvements. We also did some template rendering, and I'm quite tangled up here. We also did some template rendering, and what we found was that performance dropped quite significantly. It was doing something like 400 requests a second with other things to consider, and it dropped to like 100 or something silly. So we're obviously doing something wrong, and I want to try and work out what that is. The first thing that occurred to me, though, when I thought about this, was that we may not actually be measuring this correctly. So just to recap, we load the fast route router with some predefined routes, and we have this generator function that our server sends new socket requests to, and that does the whole route matching. But this also handles, if we go and look at our routes file, it also handles static files, which is interesting because if we do an Apache bench of this, I wonder if what it's measuring is successful visits to the home page, but what the server is actually doing is successful visits to the home page plus 3 or 4 other files at the same time. I want to do some kind of measuring to see if maybe we're measuring the wrong thing. Maybe it's actually doing 5 times the amount of work, and we can feel better about ourselves. So let's jump into code. And let me just get the chat windows up as well. Okay, so this is the code I was talking about. In our routes file, it serves static files, and all of that goes through our server. So maybe we can do a check here. Let's see. Let's make a variable here for visits, connections, and we'll pass that through to this callback. So connections, and we'll just increment it. Hi. Hi, simulated Greg. Okay, so we've got a variable to hold the number of connections that are coming through, and each connection we will add to this. And maybe what we want to do is something like if connections mod 500 is 0, then print connections and the number of those and a new line. Okay, let's just try this as an experiment and see what's going on. So we need to start up our server. Yes, and let's make sure it's working. In fact, I need to get a window over here. Moom. Okay. 127, this is 8001, because that's what I set it to last yesterday. And this seems to be loading fine. It's got the bootstrap styles. If we go back to the network tab and refresh, we can see the files that are loaded there. Okay, so it's loading 4 files per request. This jQuery min file takes very long to load, but that's because that's a direct link. That's not actually a file on the server. These are files on the server, and they seem to take a long time to load. So not quite sure what to do about that. Also, one of these servers was doing something interesting yesterday. I did some updating to PHP that was running on here, and it started killing things, and I figured out what that was later. If I do a ps fx grep php, look at that. It has so many processes springing up from this. Okay. For some reason, it's doing a lot of threads for this. And I think it's because it's using the concurrent package in file system to load files in a separate thread, but it's not shutting them down for some reason. So let's have a look which versions of this have EIO on. grep EIO. not that. PHP 5.5, not that. PHP 5.6, that has EIO. Okay, EIO. PHP 5.6 index. Okay. Now, when we refresh this, it should work. I remember it was getting a little erratic, loading multiple requests to this. See, that's the weird thing. It seems that with EIO, when the stuff is loaded, it sometimes just doesn't load these things properly. If we go back here, these will all be cached now, so it won't have to reload them. But if we hard refresh, okay, there it fails with the CSS file. Hard refresh, there it fails Bootstrap, JavaScript, and CSS. This is very erratic, and I'm not really sure what to do about this. I'm not really sure if this is something in the code that I'm doing or not. Anyway, the thing that I wanted to test was, let me restart the server, is I wanted to check the number of connections that this receives, not the number that Apache Bench makes, because I have this sneaking suspicion that perhaps Apache Bench is only loading a quarter of the whole traffic that's going through the server, and if the server is serving 500 requests a second in the same amount of time as Apache runs, then it's not as bad as I thought performance-wise. Anyway, we'll restart the server and we'll get Apache Bench back up. Oh yes, that's the wrong port. Okay. So we'll run Apache Bench again and see what happens. How you all doing? Everyone good? It's Friday here. It's Friday evening. What day is it there? And time. I got nothing to do but wait for Apache Bench to run. Oh, also, by the way, this is probably going to be a bit of a shorter stream because I don't know if I feel like coding on this for a whole hour. I've got to do a lot of writing stuff as well. Okay, so this seems to be on par, actually. So this is the server saying how many connections are made. This actually seems to be on par. That's kind of disappointing. Wow, that is super disappointing. Okay, so 8,500 requests made, 8,500 connections made. Apache Bench is sending the stuff directly through Socket.io, not requesting the resources that this HTML file asks for. That kind of sucks. Performance is a little better, and I'm not actually sure why, because I haven't changed anything on this. It may be related to those process problems that we were having. So let's just see how many of them are running. Just one. So that's the server that's running. And yes, that's the server that's running. It's not doing the orphan processes again that concurrent was doing, but it's erratic. So I don't know what to do about that. I don't want to have to load up a separate file server because that sucks. So what else can we do to improve this performance? Let's have a look at, let's get this layout file out here and do another view called bench. And by the way, this whole show is going to be about, whoa, what happened there? This whole daily is going to be about optimization. It's not going to be. If you came for something else, I'm sorry. Got to get this faster. Okay. Hello, world. So let's make a route for this quickly. We can do something like this. Put it under our file server. Bench, and this just loads bench. Now, we don't want to use this view stuff because if it's the template engine that's the problem, well, this view function uses the template engine. Maybe we want to do something like this. Maybe. We kind of know it's there though, right? We can totally just do this. File. And then this path will be this good old path here, but it'll end in bench. No, wait, that's wrong. This directory, down one into resources, oops, resources, views, bench.php. Oops, what happened there? .php. My clumsy palms and the trackpad, I guess. Okay, let's restart the server and see if that endpoint works. Bench. 500 error, of course. Well, okay. Yield file open. Directory down into resources, into views, into bench.